And this was so grievous, uh, a wound.
Sophia, how did you find carnivore?
I came to Carnivore out of frustration with doctors. I've always had a finicky stomach, and it got worse when I went to live in China. At the time, Wuhan was a tier 3 city, and people were still defecating out in the open. And seriously, and I honestly
When
believe
was this?
this was I lived there from 2010 to 2017. And Wuhan has done some amazing. They're now, I think they're a tier 2 city now, just one step under Beijing and Shanghai. But at the time, it was, I, I, it was wild. Night soil is still, was still the effective means of fertilization. People would save their human waste and fertilize their little garden plots with it, and then sell those plants at the farmer's market. Now, me, so desiring to sink myself into Chinese culture, went hog wild, particularly with the food. And there's a really, really good chance that I picked up some sort of bug there, and my stomach hasn't been the same since. Now, it works in tandem with the thyroid because before I went to live in China, I was living in the US. And I had found out that now, this small sidestep, I've decided I want to be a global citizen. So living in other countries, not calling any one of them home, that's my modus operandi. Um, Being bound to a medical condition, a chronic condition, kind of puts the kibosh on that because who knows if you're going to get the medical services you need, right? So I was looking for ways to fix the thyroid issue, and acupuncture is one way to do so. So I had acupuncture in the States and had the blood test and said, yeah, okay, my thyroid hormones are in balance and I no longer need the medicine, so life is good, and off I go. Well, that didn't last. So at the same time I was cultivating this stomach bug, I was also getting progressively worse thyroid wise. And it all culminated with me falling down and cracking my head open. Now I'm back on thyroid medicine. And the stomach problem never got better, but the thyroid did because of the pills. Fast forward to where I'm at now in Poland. And I'm obese and gravely, dangerously out of balance because of the grievous psychological shock I wrote you about. Um, and I just didn't care anymore. I mean, however much time I have is however much time I have, but I don't have to care how I spend it. So, um, the cookies, the biscuits, the chocolate, everything like that, that went down so easy. In fact, I was having dinner just so I could have my dessert. And at some point, I started caring, and I really don't know when or why or how. But I think the whole thing became clinical for me because I had all these doctors telling me that I need this medication, that medication, the other, generally a total of four on top of the thyroid. And nobody was interested in fixing anything. Nobody was saying, so what is it you're eating or not eating? Nobody was doing any root cause analysis. And I figured, well, I guess I'd better be the one to do it then. So off I go, plowing into the literature. ResearchGate is my friend. Um, I found a really great channel, EO Nutrition. He's really on the money. And he shows his literature, and then, you get the hint from there, and then you all go to ResearchGate and look up the paper and read it. That became my modus operandi. I became, oh yeah, quick backstep. You're going to have some fine editing to do. In 2021, I got COVID. Kind of weird how, because I live isolated anyway. But I got COVID. And so it was 2 days of fever, sweating, chills. And when I came out of it, I had no desire for any of the cookies I had, or the chocolate, or anything. Weirdest, thank God, COVID. And that was kind of the start for me. And once I got rid of the sugar, I started purging a lot of the excess weight. And I thought, okay, so let's see how far we can go with this. And then it was the bread and the pastries and all the other stuff. Like, okay, so all this is good. Now I'm still vegetarian, so the lentils and blah 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 were still figured. But no matter what, the doctor still insisted on pushing those same four medicines. A medicine to improve cholesterol, a medicine to improve triglycerides, and then the glucose thing, and then, of course, the requisite statin. Everybody's got to be on the statin, right? About a year ago, I noticed symptoms of B12 deficiency, dry crusties in the mouth and the brittle skin and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm way low on B12. And I don't want to take supplements because supplements are typically full of fillers. And those fillers can have just as bad an effect as the deficiency. So um, I read fake meat offers up to 90% of a daily B12 intake. So I'm like, okay, well, vegetarian fake meat. And that did not work at all. And looking back, Dave, it was kind of ridiculous because I don't want to take supplements because of the fillers, but I'm willing to eat fake meat because it has this vitamin content. So sometimes I'm not the brightest thing. In any case, that didn't work at all. My blood sugar shot straight up and it was devastating. So I said, okay, fine. I'm going back to eating meat. And from there, it was like, I feel really, really good. But whenever I have a salad, I can't breathe, at least through one nostril. And when I ride my bike, I can't catch my breath. And so, okay, so I cut out the salads, except cucumbers, because they didn't affect me much. And then it was like my once a week banana. Like, I can't breathe after I have that. And walking, I live in a pre-World War II building in rural Poland, and the top flight is on the fifth floor. I always had to take a break at 2.5 to calm down and catch my breath to make it the rest of the way up. Now I can just jump up there. Um, and I said, okay, something more is going on. So more research, more digging, more this. The nail, the final nail was when I had my latest labs, and they're clean. They are clean. Triglycerides are in range. Glucose is in range. HDL is in range. Total cholesterol is a little high, but that's not a bad thing. And the doc looks at my labs and says, yeah, okay, you're doing really good. So here, take these four medicines. And I'm like, why am I taking four medicines still when all the indicators are gone? She said, oh, we have to get that cholesterol under control. So I did some investigation and she prescribed me, well, they all because it's always the same four meds. The statin is a particularly toxic one for thyroid patients. She prescribed me a sulfonate and a fibrate. And the literature says you're not supposed to take the two of them together because they work at cross purposes and can harm the patient. The glucose control one, Avamina, had such serious side effects that even if my sugar were high, I couldn't justify taking them. So this was the point where I said, okay, that's it. I'm on my own. These people are trying to kill me. This is a criminal enterprise. I'm done. And I'm doing it on my own. So Carnivore started about 2 months ago. First, it started with EO nutrition and fixing SIBO, fixing my gut issue. Because by this time, it was such a toxic environment that it was showing up in my face in red blotches. And I couldn't, obviously, I can't rely on doctors to heal me. They're just going to drug me. So EO Nutrition said megadosing on thiamine is the way to cure SIBO. They also recommended going on a complete elimination diet. And they recommended carnivore as one of the eliminations to go for. And they also said keto and vegetarian. But I've already done the vegetarian. Not a fan of keto. So, okay, carnivore is it. Here we go, carnivore. Um, it's been a revelation. The I can't say my stomach's fixed yet. It's been a stop and start proposition because um, my stomach is still so sensitive. It doesn't work with butter. And it lets me know that in the rudest and most violent way possible. Um, Lard, tallow, I'm still having a problem with. I end up walking around with a huge pregnancy belly. But if I avoid external fats and just stick with meat fat, bacon fat, then I do okay. And so that process of analysis concluded just about 2 weeks ago. And I'm seeing positive results. So there's
So,
my yeah. Mhm.
wow. So, what has happened for you in these 2 months?
Um, there's been the roller coaster with the bloating, the not bloating, bloating, not bloating, and by process of elimination. That the scientific method takes a while. It hasn't shaken my resolve. I feel 100% better. I can ride my bike for miles now and not come home aching and not able to climb the stairs for my aching knees. Um, I have so much energy, frightening. And my work as a freelancer kind of ties me to my computer. And it's really, really hard when the engine wants to keep going and going and going and going. Kind of hard to settle down to get the writing done. Mental clarity is amazing. For 2, 3 years, I was in a brain fog, and I'm fairly certain that the quality of my work rather minimal. My clients are very generous with me. I still get to work with them, but now it's like I'm on fire. I'll wake up in the morning, do my little meditation, wake up thing, and then it's like, okay, ready to go to work. Let's get this idea. Oh, I've got that idea. Just amazing.
With that energy and that mental clarity, I mean, that changes everything, right? Because
It absolutely does.
beforehand, it's like you're feeling sick, you've got all these symptoms going on, the doctor's drugging you up, I'm
Mhm.
talking generally, but I mean this is basically what happened. The doctor's drugging you up,
Right.
and like it's almost like there's so much brain fog or so much haze in front of you, you can't actually sort anything out, right?
And that's an excellent point, Dave. But also, I had the grievous psychological shock. I am not by no means by no means am I the only parent who has been dealt the blow of um, alienation. I refuse to live as my children want me to. I will not be tied down. I have my own life. They decided to cut me out of their lives until I behave. And so that was, and again, I am by no means the only person, but that strips your entire identity. For 30 years, I was my children's mother, and suddenly they reject me. So who am I? I'm nobody's mother now. And this was so grievous, uh, a wound that when I first moved to Poland, I couldn't envision living through it. I would have quite cheerfully expired. Well, I don't know if I had no cheer in myself, but it wouldn't have bothered me. And it took a really long time to get over that.
Mm. So, do you mind just me asking a few questions about it just to get a
Please
bit more
do.
context? Like, what was the catalyst for this? It was you moving to Poland that caused the
It was actually me moving to China in
right.
2010. For them, it was okay, I'm going off to explore the world for a little bit until I come back and resume my rightful place. For me, it was I've raised my children. Thank God we have the technology to stay connected. Now it's time to go learn and When I when my time in China was over, I returned to the States in 2017, and they thought I was done. They thought I would now settle down and be the grandmother they always wanted for their kids to have. And having grown up in Europe, this is where I kind of want to spend my sunset years. They couldn't fathom that. They wanted me to embrace their lifestyle and their culture, 100%. So when I said that, no, I'm going to establish myself somewhere else. They're like, okay, fine. We're not going to talk. You don't exist for us anymore.
But I'm assuming, like, they were adults. They were
Oh yeah.
self-sufficient adults when you left for China in the first place, right?
I didn't just wait until they were launched into their adult lives, Dave. I waited until my oldest grandson was old enough to understand I wasn't leaving him, I was leaving the country. And it really helped that technology became such that constant communication was possible. I probably would not have done it without VoIP, Skype, stuff like that. I would not have left them if we hadn't had a way to connect.
So, how in the last 2 months,
Hmm.
do you feel like with the mental clarity and that kind of thing, do you feel like you're able to kind of think about this in a more kind of, I don't know, step back from the situation and go, okay, I can look at this more objectively now, and I'm okay with what's happened. I'm just going to live my life.
Um, in China, in Chinese, there's a phrase, 就是这样. That's how it is. I just, it exists in every language. I just love the way it sounds in Chinese. So um, that was the first step towards um, not accepting but rationalizing, and then getting in touch with other um, groups of parents who had been so cruelly rejected. And it helps to know that you're not alone out here. You know, you, like I told you, I'm by far not the only parent suffering alienation and rejection. Nothing special about me in that regard. People do this all the time, Dave, and it's cruel, it's devastating, but it's survivable.
Um, wow. Yeah, as a parent myself, I can't imagine. But yeah, going forward, what is well, actually, to take a step back, sorry. So the
Hmm.
situation with the meds now
Hmm.
is like you're not on any meds?
I'm not on any of the four toxins they prescribed. The thyroid question becomes an issue. I've recently learned that hypothyroidism is one of the most common deficiencies, but it's also commonly misdiagnosed. It comes in two flavors. One of them is an autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's. The other one is a deficiency induced um, condition. And the deficiency may be selenium, most likely or most often it's iodine. In my nearly 30 years of managing this condition, nobody's ever brought up the deficiency angle. It's always been, oh, you're sick, you need pills, here you go, which is an eerie simulation resemblance to these other pills. Oh, you're sick, you need pills. That's the go-to strategy. So if it works for thyroid, but it doesn't work for these other toxins, what makes me believe it works for thyroid? How come there couldn't be a natural, you know, maybe I do have the autoimmune condition, but the question is worth asking. We need to find out if it's autoimmune or if it's deficiency induced, because we can fix deficiencies. The carnivore diet proves that. So that's my next quest. Let's find out if this is deficiency induced.
So, are you eating, like, more seafood and things like that to try and see if it's deficiency induced?
Oh, never been a fan of seafood, but I have increased. I've upped my salt intake. I've got my electrolytes, which I do, 15 drops in the morning, 15 drops at night. Um, I'm playing with the idea of getting iodine drops, but here's the problem. Already, as I've upped my salt intake, there's a really good chance that I'm at cross purposes with the thyroid hormones. And I need I need a doctor to order lab tests so I can know what my blood conditions are. But going to a doctor inevitably means you're going to have drugs pushed at you. And so it's a catch 22 situation, Dave. It's awful. Right now, I'm still taking the thyroid hormones because they seem to be doing something. Better to have them than not have them.
At this stage, how are you eating day to day? How many times and what kind of foods?
That's an excellent question. Generally at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30, I'll have 200, 250 grams of some kind of fatty meat, either 70-30 ground beef or bacon or, so, and then two soft boiled eggs mixed in, make a bowl of it, put in lots and lots of salt. That gets me going. Somewhere around 4:30, 5 o'clock, I'll have a steak, a fatty cut, something from the neck or, the round. And that's it. After that, that's done eating. That's my little 6 hour or 8 hour window.
So contrasting that with how you used to eat when you're on a regular diet, I mean, you must be like more time rich now than you were before because you're not thinking about food as often and you're like not actually eating as often as well, right?
I'm not eating as often. Well, I was doing intermittent fasting even on the vegetarian diet. But on the other hand, I was eating such huge portions, I really couldn't afford to eat anymore. So if you take one thing away, you got to compensate somewhere else. So I was eating like entire salad bowls. I'm talking the serving size, full of salad, or I was eating 2 or 3 bowls of lentils with vegetables mixed, and the excess never could fill the hunger, no matter how distended my stomach became. So now it's such a relief because you know 8 ounces of meat in the morning, 12 in the evening. I'm done. It's over. And the thing is, being a vagabond, um, I always fret over what I can take with me on the road. What is portable? Okay. Now, obviously, lentils aren't portable. And you might get away with fake meat sausages, but nah, who wants to? They're not good cold. And so it was sandwiches, lots and lots of sandwiches with cheese and stuff like that, and margarine, the slyest of all toxins. So now I have a trip planned. I'm taking off Monday early morning. I'm just going to throw a couple of steaks under the broiler for a few minutes, wrap them up, stick them in my cooler, and basta, finito. It's over. They're portable. You can take them with you. You can eat them whenever you want. You can eat them hot. You can eat them cold.
And how long are you going away for?
That's up for debate. I have a grand itinerary in mind, but it depends on what my clients need and want for content. Because it's so I can whip out an article in a matter of hours, and then I have the rest of the day to go explore. And that's pretty much my strategy. But we're getting more and more project oriented, so I might have to spend more time. The grand plan is to visit 4 cities, culminating in a medieval village in the Carpathian Mountains. I might only get to 2 cities. So I'm planning for anywhere from 5 days to 2 weeks.
Nice. And going forward, what are your goals as far as with your long-term goals as far as with eating and also with your travel plans?
Um, Somebody who has suffered a blow, like I have, we tend not to make plans. Because nothing reveals how relative everything is than having your identity stripped away. So, I'll travel for as long as the desire exists. Um, the as as motivated as I am by the carnivore diet, its ease, its simplicity, its wide applicability. It's not something that I would tout exclusively. It's definitely better than anything else out there. But and I plan to continue long term, but it's not something I'm looking at as okay, so 3 months from now I'm gonna do this, and that doesn't work. I'm sorry.
So, like, when you catch up with friends,
Hmm.
do they ask how come you only eat meat?
No, but they do ask how come I'm so skinny and energetic. Just yesterday, I had ridden my bike into town and I saw somebody I knew. And now, few people ride bike with hoop skirts and stuff like that. So I'm wearing bare minimum, the leggings and the shirts and, bike gloves and stuff. And we conversed for 20 minutes. And she said, God, you're so skinny. What are you doing? And I said, well, first I went no sugar. And then I went no carb. And she goes, so what do you eat now? Vegetables? No, I eat meat. And vegetables? No, not many of them. And it's like, ooh, I don't know if I could go no vegetables.
So you just tend to get those kind of astonished reactions, like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I couldn't do that."
Um, yes. Or either that or just disbelief. Um, for another encounter several months ago. Sophia's getting skinnier and I'm getting fatter, and they've got a cake of fork full, a fork full of cake headed for their mouths, and I'm pushing the cake away, and they're like, Sophia's getting skinnier and I'm getting fatter, and what's she doing? And I'm like, well, I don't eat cake. Like, oh no, that's not a lie. You have to eat cake. I mean that. And conversely, I have a dear, dear friend living in the States, and I strongly suspect that they're in congestive heart failure. And I keep gently nudging at them. The Lipitor you're on, maybe that's doing you disservice. Oh no, I need that for my cholesterol. And maybe your blood pressure meds aren't doing you all that great. Oh no, I got to keep my blood pressure in check. There's such a wall of disbelief, or I should say a wall of belief in the narrative, that one would literally keel over if you don't take this stupid statin.
So if you actually did have someone come to you and say, "Look, you're doing much better. I'm I need help. I'm going to try this carnivore thing too." What
Mhm.
advice would you give them?
I would recommend first doing a root cause analysis on yourself. Why do you want to do this? What are your motivations? What's your background? Where are you coming from, and where do you want to go? Because without understanding that, the risk of falling off or just dabbling and you know just dabbling and saying, nah, this is not for me, or ooh, that chocolate looks good. Um, the risk is too great. If you're going to commit to this, understand why. And I'm not above saying, well, why do you want to do it? And how do you propose doing this? And do you see any obstacles in your path? And what kind of results are you looking for? And how prepared are you to do the research, to dig into the literature, to understand what's happening? For some, it might not be necessary. My daughter embraced keto after her bariatric surgery. She embraced keto and never questions anything. She just follows the influencer, does whatever the influencer said. And as far as I'm concerned, Dave, That's just as good as following the Diabetic Association's recommendations for the high carbs and blah, blah, blah. You know, it simply changing influencers is not going to be your fix. You've got to do it on your own. To do that, you have to understand yourself.
Yeah, it's got to really be a something that you understand about yourself and you want to do rather than just following any particular person, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so, Sophia, is there any way people can reach out to you? Do you have any social media?
You'd think for the type of work I do that I'd have social media all over the place, but no. I have a LinkedIn profile. Um, People are welcome to contact me by email.
Sure. So, if it's okay, I'll link to your email below.
I appreciate
Um,
it. Thank you.
Sophia, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story today. I really appreciate your time.
Dave, it's been such a pleasure. And also, many kudos to you. You're the one out there quietly fighting. It's your platform that's bringing us all together. And I can't thank you enough.